All right, we are live, and we are live for another Travel Tip Tuesday. Today, my guest is Tammy Crandell with Journaventure Travel and Tours, and she is here today to tell us a little bit more insight on the cruising industry and what's kind of just every week we come on with a new guest that tells us about what's going on with the travel industry in general. So we're going to kind of go just into a little bit more in depth with cruises and kind of what things are changing, which are changing every day. But thank you so much, Tammy, for being on today. I really, really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Lucie. It is such a pleasure to be a part of this wonderful Travel Tip Tuesday that you brought us on. And as you mentioned, there's so much changing coming forward that it really is difficult for people to keep track. So that's really what we're here for, is to try to do our best to make sure that we keep our clients and our future clients informed.
Absolutely. And, things are changing all the time, which is why this is so important for me to do this weekly. And, I try to bring up these different things because things are changing on a daily basis. And new regulations are coming out. Dates are being changed for when travel will be open. And nobody really knows when it's all going to be back to normal or whatever this new norm is. But it is definitely something to keep up to date with. And I think it's also very important to have, a travel agent that's going to help you with that in the future.
Right.
Going with that. So before we get into all of the little nitty gritty details, tell us, Tammy, how you got into the travel industry and why it's so passionate, for you.
Oh, well, first of all, I love cruising. Cruising is my favorite thing to do. Doesn't mean I don't like to visit the islands, all those fun places, but I really love to cruise. I actually took my first cruise when I was 21. And you either fall in love with it or you don't, so it was one of those things that I absolutely fell in love with. And interestingly enough, I had a long career in banking beyond that. And, but in 2012, the bug bit me and I finally caved. My business partner, Teresa Cheney, and I started working together. Then we went into partnership with the franchise for a bit, and now we're completely independent as Journaventure Travel and Tours.
Very exciting. And, starting that whole new venture, I'm sure wasn't easy, but it's a fun venture to do. And it's always proud when you can finally get something, off the ground that you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so what have you seen change the most with the travel industry and cruising in general with COVID-19? Because there's been a lot. It's been 3 months now? It's crazy. I can't even believe it's been 3 months. It's insane.
We're actually, if we look at where we're at, for us in the industry, it's really been longer than that, because things really started to get questioned at the tail end of February.
Exactly. But we didn't really come across it until people weren't really taking it seriously until end of March.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, because everybody was kind of like, oh yeah, there's something out there. We don't know what it is, but it doesn't affect me right now. And then all of a sudden.
It was the official pandemic announcement that really created, some numbers. And, one very obvious thing is, ships are not sailing right now. There's a lot of ships sitting in port. The water is beautiful and the ships are beautiful, and they're working hard on getting some things taken care of on the ships while they have them in port. So that really has changed. People are a little bit shy. They're a little bit shy to schedule travel right now. And quite honestly, we've had this last announcement at recommendation of the CDC is the four times that we've changed dates now.
Wow.
We're starting to sail. The something that I believe the CDC refers to as a no sail order.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about that no sail order and what are the dates now and what you're kind of expecting right now.
Yeah, well, the no sail order is actually through September 15th. And that's, a general date. Of course, that really gives a guideline for when ships should start sailing again, when they should really be prepped and ready to start to sail again. But beyond that, things are a little bit more complicated than that. And that's because there are ships all over the world. And so it's not just about the ports we have here in Florida. We're a little spoiled. We've got these wonderful ports here in Florida, but we're not the only ports that exist. So if you're traveling to Canada, or if you're traveling to Hawaii, if you're traveling to some of these European countries, as we just experienced, the EU is now restricting some access to U.S. citizens. So we really right now are at the mercy of some of those restrictions. So how that has changed sailing beyond that September 15th date is based on location. Some of those sail orders are stopping all the way out until April as of today, some of them. So,
wow.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that is. And that's why, and I think you and I had discussed before, how important it is to have an agent to work on your behalf, because things are so crazy, just so absolutely crazy right now, that trying to keep up with those dates. I mean, I've got charts that I've created for myself just to keep up, and then just to update those every time things are updated is really quite the challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it is very important to have, I think that people don't understand what a travel agent really does for you. It's a lot more than it. People don't understand that they don't pay you per se.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct. We're paid by our suppliers, and just because we're paid by the suppliers doesn't mean that they charge you more.
Absolutely.
So you can choose to drive yourself crazy and do it yourself, or you can choose to come to someone like myself, who has experience in the industry, kind of has that in, so we know what updates are happening from day to day, and can really make sure that the experience that you want when you travel is what you get.
Absolutely. And and also, like, if any cancellations happen, like, it's you guys who handle it, right? It's not like I wouldn't have to deal with it. I wouldn't have to be on the phone for hours with an airline or a cruise industry to try and get it canceled. It would be
right. That's correct. And that was a super huge challenge. You talk about changes in the industry. I really, probably the first 4 weeks out the gate after the pandemic was announced, I really worked hard. And it wasn't just about canceling clients. I'm sure that, it would have been very easy for me to do that, to just cancel them. But, that's not what I do. We're consultants, and we provide a service to our clients. So before we straight up cancel them, the idea was, well, what is the best option for the client that we can come up with? Is this in the form of a future cruise credit or a future travel credit that gives them a little bit more to spend? Do we have a way to move their sailing to the same time next year, and protect the pricing? Is there a way for us to do that? It's about making sure that we protect our clients' money when we can, and even see if we can't get them a little extra kudos, if that's possible, for the client.
Like that extra money.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the hard work paid off. I've got a lot of great clients. And the bulk of those clients, I would say probably 90% of them opted to do either future cruise travel credits or future travel credits for land. So
very nice, very nice. And I mean, it makes sense because they were giving like extra money, right? Like,
yeah, they were. Yeah. And if these are clients that are traveling, most of the time anyways, I mean, I think for those of us like yourself that travel, we're itching to travel. My husband and I we just scheduled our sailing on Virgin Voyages for October 26th. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they don't extend dates again. So we're excited to do that.
Absolutely. No, I actually just got back from a camping trip because I had Friday off, so I was like, okay, 3-day weekend.
I saw that. It's a Kentucky River. I was envious.
Yes, it was very nice. It was definitely worth it, and it was a fun time. So, that I've definitely been itching to leave, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that so many other people are feeling the same way, but they just
Right.
don't know. I started this whole channel, like my whole YouTube channel and everything like that, to help
Mm-hmm.
educate people like how to start traveling to begin with, because so many
Sure.
people just don't understand, like don't know where to start. And
Sure.
there's so many different ways you can go about it, which again, very helpful to have a travel agent to help you through that if you're looking for a specific type of travel, like the
Sure.
cruises and such like that. So what can we expect? What does the future of cruising look like? So getting onto a cruise trip, everybody has the idea that a cruise ship is, you're going to go on, I'm going to get drunk, right? I'm going to get drunk, I'm going to
Yes.
have lots of drinks, and I'm going to have lots of food. And like, I know the food, they have like buffets usually. I have to admit, I've never been on a cruise. Shame on me.
Well, we
I've
gotta change
traveled
that, traveling Lucy.
I know, but that will be changed as soon as I can get past COVID.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So tell us a little about what the cruising experience changing. I know that they haven't come up with every single specific detail, but what details have they come out with so far?
Well, I mean, some encouraging things to people is, as you had mentioned before, the drinking will still be there. The shows will still be there. Okay. The food, lots and lots of food will still be there. So those things you don't have to worry about that stuff going away. What that experience may look a little different. And what I mean by that is from the time you board. So, I can't speak for others, but when I go on a cruise, I get on that ship as early as they will let me on the ship. So I will show up if they say that we can start boarding at noon. That's when I get there, so because I want to be on that ship and get as much out of that experience as I can. That may change. And what I mean by that is how that may change is it may evolve into having set boarding times so they can limit how many people are arriving at one time. So that's a strong possibility that's kind of in the works. And of course, they had already started initiating some things pre-pandemic announcement where they were doing temperature checks and medical exams if your temperature was over a certain amount, things like that. So those things are going to be a little bit different for people coming into board. So that's going to be probably a different experience for a lot of people. And what I would say is don't ruin your vacation getting all crazy about it. Just go with it. We're all in this together. We want to be able to sail, so whatever we need to do, one, in the guise of safety. Okay, that's really what this is all about, is making sure that everybody stays safe, everybody stays healthy. And that includes buffets. Buffets are a huge, huge thing on cruise lines. Fortunately, all of the cruise lines are really working hard to figure out a way to reinvent what a buffet may look like in the future, because they love them as much as we do. So they don't want
less work for them.
And the variety. It's almost been like a contest. You could see if you went from one line to another, one was trying to make theirs bigger than the other one was, and one was serving this variety versus that one. And, so it really has been kind of a neat contest to see what you could get from one ship to the next.
Or it was just like a contest of who could eat the most in a short amount of time.
Yeah. I think, what's really scary is you could eat a lot of food. For me, it's all about the variety. So I like the variety. I don't want that to go away. It's not about the magnitude of food, So, so you may experience some of that. So some examples of talks that are in the works. Norwegian's already talking about offering full service, staff to serve off the buffet versus you getting the stuff yourself. So they're looking at redoing that. Bahamas Paradise, same type of situation, but they're saying they're doing face masks, hats, aprons, gloves. They're doing all that stuff. Royal Caribbean is another one that is looking at possibly doing employee service or having individual food portions that you can get. even doing some things, maybe single service tongs, like throwaways, and or what they're calling possibility of finger koozies that can be washed and sanitized, so you can pick up hot plates of food,
Finger koozies.
Finger koozies. I know what that looks like, right?
I don't know what a finger koozie looks like.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. So, it'll be an interesting new something that you get to take home, maybe. But
a souvenir from the cruise. Guess what, guys? I just got off this cruise and I just got a finger koozie. What did you get?
I got a finger koozie too, but it's this color versus that color,
That's
a cool idea. It's very outside of the box, So, so it's little things like that they're trying to come up with. But the great thing is, the cruise lines are really taking this seriously. And one of the things that they have done, Royal Caribbean is working in collaboration with Norwegian with a healthy sail panel. So so they've actually put a healthy panel of experts. And I pulled up my screen here because I could not memorize this, quite honestly, because it's a lot of information here. But it really is, these are specialists that they specialize in public health, infectious diseases, hospitality, maritime operations. So they're pulling this huge panel of experts together. And what they will do is have their recommendations ready for the industry by August. So, and they're really doing that. So they're not just looking at what one cruise line is going to do. They're really trying to set a standard here. And the better thing, too, is even Carnival is actually working with the World Travel and Tourism Council. They actually put together a COVID-19 scientific summit that is open to the public. That's on July 23rd online, and it's from 10 to 1:30 and on that date. So they'll allow you, once you have signed in, I guess, to be able to be part of that online event, they'll allow you to provide questions in advance. So that way they've got some questions to roll with at that particular summit. So they're calling it the COVID Science Summit. So covidsciencesummit.com is the online event. And my understanding is they're opening that up for registrations actually tomorrow morning, I think at 8 a.m.
Oh, look at that. You heard it here first, folks. All right. So you said that was COVID. What was it? covidsciencesummit.com. covidsciencesummit.com. Is that right? Yes, ma'am. So covidsciencesummit.com. And that will be an online event, again, open to the public, 7/23, 10 to 1:30. So you're going to have all of these wonderful experts, kind of in the room, answering the questions that people have about travel. And I love the fact that they've opened it up to the public, which I think is great, because they're going to get questions that maybe we wouldn't look at. Hello there. Oh, there's my cat. Saying hello. I was like, hey there, everybody.
You gotta love that. But so that's really cool. Those things that are coming up that I think are going to be important for people. If you really have questions, be a part of that. Be a part of the voice of change. So if there are things that you'd be surprised, sometimes people come up with interesting ideas, that are outside of the box that maybe isn't looked at from a travel professional's perspective, but is looked at from that consumer's perspective. So,
I like that. That sounds like a really great thing that they're offering, and I'm glad that they are taking it so seriously, because it does seem like it's getting. I've talked to so many people, and so many people seem so worried about, or some people seem really worried. Some people aren't worried at all. I feel like it can be one of those things where it's like, if it doesn't really affect you specifically, it could be hard for you to understand like how effective it could be. But it is just one of those things that we do have to have a heightened sense of awareness too. Is there any talks about like having people like be required to wear masks on the ship or anything?
We haven't heard that yet. If we were talking about doing some things on some of the islands, if you were taking a land trip versus cruising, that seems to be a given for most of those going out the gate, as well as testing for COVID prior to arrival. Not so much on the ships. I haven't heard that for ships specifically, but specific to island travel. If you are flying out to an island to do an all-inclusive or a hotel stay, that sort of thing, they're requiring testing. Most of them are requiring testing that shows a negative result within 72 hours of the test.
Cool. So some of those places include, I know that last week I had my guest on Sergio from Old Bahama Bay, West End in the Bahamas, and it was 7 days for them specifically. Right. So what are some of the places that it's at 72 hours that you need to have?
I think it's really specific to some of the Jamaican islands who are doing that. And again, keep in mind that this changes every day. They could say 72 hours today, they could say 7 days tomorrow, and, so we're looking at that. Some of the southern islands are doing that as well. And quite honestly, you can't blame them, for making sure that not just their guests are safe, but, their islands are much smaller. Their hospital capacity is much smaller. So they've got to make sure that they keep their island safe as well. And they are literally, they're ready. I mean, they've opened up their islands for travel. There are just some restrictions that you're going to have to be willing to get past in order to do that. And, from what I understand, that you could simply schedule, a test with LabCorp, to be able to do that. So, and I'm not plugging them specifically, but that's just an example. You could schedule that test with LabCorp, get your test done, and then be able to fly out if that's what you want to do. But as far as masks, I haven't heard anything on that specific. We've talked about higher protocols for wiping down and sanitizing. We've talked about the protocols when they sanitize a room or they clean rooms in between sailings, for example. How are you going to know that your room was taken care of and done? Some of them are talking about literally sealing the door. So when you arrive to your door, if the seal is cracked, you know that somebody has already penetrated that space. Whereas you can arrive and if the seal is there, your room's done and no one has entered the space since they sanitized the space. So
actually, one of my first guests, Christina, with Hampton Inn, they doing that with their hotels as well. So they had the Lysol stamp of approval. It's like a little sticker and it would be on the door. And if it was cracked, then you knew. I thought that was very innovative. I think that's smart.
It's innovative, but it really takes me back to when I was a teenager and going on chorus trips, when they would, you'd have to stay in,
oh yeah,
they used to put
in choir. Yeah,
you put duct tape on the doors or masking tape on the doors to show whether or not you tried to get out of the room.
That's funny. It also reminds me of the sealed packets that you would get in school. If you were taking a standardized test, and they would have the seal on the side, and then you would have to cut the seal or whatever, and it's you can't break the seal until they say you can break the seal.
That was the PERT exam, for college.
Yeah, the PERT, all of those exams. Oh, I don't miss school.
I don't either, but there's so much to learn in the industry we have here. So that's the other plus of what we as agents offer, and consultants is that we are forever educating, regardless of what we learn, we're constantly learning more. And, we're working with our suppliers, working with what I consider to be on the ground business development managers that help us do the best thing that we can for clients. With that in mind, I wanted to make sure that we were sure to mention, there are some other protocols that cruise lines have put in place. And I'll just use Royal Caribbean as an example. They have a cruise with confidence policy.
Okay.
And part of that cruise with confidence policy, when you book a cruise with them, they guarantee that it's going to be the lowest price possible. And you can go in and adjust pricing up to 48 hours prior to sailing. And, obviously if you're doing it 48 hours prior to sailing, you've already paid for your cruise probably 60 days prior. But what they're doing is, if the price is less than what you paid, they're crediting that to you as an onboard credit. So you've got money to spend on the ship, which I think is pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Part of that. And then they're also, for people who are scheduling cruises up through August 1st of 2020, as they're scheduling them for future out, they'll allow them to cancel or change up to 48 hours prior. That's part of that policy specifically. And then, so we've got best price, we've got that cancellation policy. So you can actually cancel. And I'm sorry, that didn't quite come out right. That happens to me once in a while. But if you book by August 1st, and if for some reason you need to cancel or change, you can do that up to 48 hours in advance, and they will provide you with a future travel credit for good up to 1 year from that cancellation.
So I have a question here. Michelle says, wow, which cruise line is that's offering what you were just mentioning?
It's Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. Royal Caribbean. Yeah, Royal Caribbean is doing that type of thing, along with their sister partners. They're all under the Royal Caribbean International umbrella, and that's Celebrity. So Celebrity is one of them as well.
So Royal Caribbean's doing that price match thing. If anything goes lower, then
right. They're doing what they call a best price offer guarantee, and that is to make sure that if you're getting ready to sail, and you need to cancel, you can cancel up to 2 days prior to sailing, or if you don't want to cancel and you're actually going to go on that cruise, then what they will do is they will adjust the pricing. They'll adjust the pricing if it's cheaper.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the important thing to remember, and I always say this to clients, is I always make sure, is it an apples for apples comparison in pricing? Because the last thing I want to do is say, oh yeah, we got cheaper pricing, adjust it. Now you just lost an onboard credit. That was, fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't lose something that you had there. So when we do those comparisons for clients, which we still do anyways, we just haven't been able to do this up to 48 hours prior to sailing before.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because before, it's like if you canceled, you'd have to cancel a month or two ahead of time,
well,
right?
You would have to cancel prior to final payment in order not to lose any money most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's usually anywhere between 60, depending on the dates of your cruise, the days, it could be anywhere between 60 to 120 days prior to sailing.
Wow.
That's pretty huge.
That's very convenient then that they're offering that. And I have, from some past people that I've had on in the past, it seems like the cruise industry is really responding in a very positive way. I know that I've had good and bad experiences with the flights, different airlines. Like, I've had a good one where they were like, absolutely, yeah, here's your money back. Like, no questions asked. Like, you're good, or here's a credit and whatever. And like in the beginning, it seemed like some of them were going to be good, but then they turned up to be giving like ridiculous, like they're not adjusting it. Like they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you, this amount of time to be able to go, 60 days. And then it's like 60 days. Okay, now we're 4 months into court, whatever this whole COVID thing. It's like, I'm not traveling by then. So. Right.
Right.
So.
And then, just keeping in mind that cancel and change right now, the cancel and change portion of that cruise with confidence is probably very short lived. I would imagine that's not going to be a longer term thing. They're doing that because of COVID. But that has a lot to do with people's situations right now. Instead of absolutely losing everything you spent your money on, they're allowing you to do that cancellation or change up to 48 hours prior. So that way you can, at least get a future travel credit, a future cruise credit and not lose the money. So
question, does that, as long as you book before August 1st, you said?
Yes, it's actually sailings made by August 1st with Royal Caribbean. Yes.
Sailings made by, so it could it technically be for next year, but it's booked by.
That's correct. Yeah, those
well, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's really very generous. Even some of the policies that they put in place as they've adjusted over the last several months, every time we saw a future no sail date come out, they amended and re-amended some dates. And I think the initial offering at the beginning was, oh, well, we'll give you a travel credit for 2021. We really didn't realize how bad this was. And so now a lot of them are actually providing travel credits as far out as 2022,
Wow.
So there's we still have a great deal. I think you had asked earlier what has really changed with, travel. Yeah. And that's the big thing. I think people are wanting to travel, but we're not sure what the numbers are doing right now, until we have a better handle. And I think until the industry as a whole kind of lays out that this is what we're doing, these are the protocols you can expect. I think there's a whole sector of people out there that are waiting. They're waiting for that. They want to know, what are the guidelines? What exactly are you following? So I know that I'm okay when I travel.
Absolutely. And we have another question. So is Princess doing anything like what Royal Caribbean is doing?
I'm not aware that they're doing it like that.
Okay.
Honestly. Yeah.
So Royal Caribbean is doing the best deal as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that's concerned, that doesn't mean that if a sailing has been affected, and all of the cruise lines have been pretty good about this, not just Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Princess, Carnival, and the like, and on, but a lot of them have put some protocols in place where if a cancellation was a result of the cruise line itself having to cancel, whether it was because it was a European cruise or it was to Alaska or Hawaii, whatever, if they canceled on their end, they were offering options for their clients that would include a future travel credit, maybe with a bump up, or, that sort of thing. So it gave them an opportunity to be able to schedule those things out. Absolutely.
So now that we're talking about like kind of getting into price, like what is pricing looking like for, I guess the coming months, like, cause it's September. So are there like really good deals for like Christmas cruises and such like that? Like what is that landscape looking like? Or even into next year, like what are the price? Are they really cheap? Are they trying to like sell?
I wouldn't say that they're superbly cheap. And again, I'm more of, I prefer to provide a value add to the client when I look at pricing as an overall, because you can look at something that's cheap and it could be bare bones minimum and you're not getting all the bells and whistles that you anticipated getting. So I think sometimes when we're talking about pricing, we have to be careful what we mean by that. So we've got to look at the total value package for our clients. I would say I've got clients that are going out in November, and they're going to be in a balcony. They're paying about $3,000 for, the two of them to go. So, which is probably about normal for that time of year. I mean, the one thing that may look a little different, I know we didn't address this earlier, is because of these distancing protocols that are in place, when people do start sailing again, what you can anticipate is ships are probably not going to be full. They might be at half capacity. So, logically, if it's at half capacity, I just don't anticipate, I don't see a steep drop in pricing. That's just my personal opinion. That's my disclaimer. That's my personal opinion. But and the one example, if I were to schedule someone out for next year, I did, for example, a lift and shift offer through Royal for one of my clients. And if I had to book that same cruise next year for them, as opposed to just lifting it and moving them to next year, it was $400 higher to take that trip next year. So, it didn't affect them because they had a credit that allowed them to move it. So, but I would say, work with, like I said, work with agents like ourselves, because we know what deals are coming up. I mean, Royal Caribbean is always doing some form of offer, another buy one, get one, 60% off. Carnival's doing their $49 a day per person kind of deal, which is not a bad deal. If you're not so concerned about a balcony stateroom and you want to go with an inside stateroom because you're just there to enjoy the ship, you certainly will get more economical pricing on some of the ships. So that's really a great way to be able to get on. The other thing to look at is itineraries may not be as broad going out the gate when the ships start sailing. And what I mean by that is some of these ships may be doing sea days and visiting their private island, and maybe one stop. It gives them better control over, sanitation procedures, and it eliminates them, docking in a space that won't let them off the ship. So we don't want to go there again. We were doing that back in March, in mid-March, I think that was happening. So we don't want to see that happen anymore. So we're doing everything, I think, as an industry to try to avoid that. And again, I can't stress enough, regardless of the value of the trip, how diligent the cruise lines are working together to ensure the safety, health, and well-being of their passengers and crew. I mean, they have really just been working so hard to make sure not only do they keep the current protocols, which I thought were pretty good already, but increasing those protocols and making sure that they set a standard for the rest of the industry to follow.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's great information. And I think that it's valuable to know just in general moving forward with everything that's going on. So they're still doing their normal deals that they normally do and such like that. So that's all kind of.
Well, and they do. I mean, they come up with different things once in a while. I think probably the reason you're not seeing a lot of advertising is I think they're trying to be sensitive.
Yeah.
They're sensitive to the whole situation that's going on here. I mean, you can visit my Facebook page, you can visit my website, you're going to see all the deals, but you could do that with every cruise supplier too, and you're going to see what deal that specific supplier has. But you may not see them blasting that out every 15 minutes in between a newscast. Not a good idea right now.
No, that's very true. You bring up a good point. I mean, it is a very sensitive subject because a lot of people aren't feeling 100% comfortable with traveling, and but it is also something that needs to be talked about, and that's why I brought this whole panel together, is to talk about what is it going to look like? Because if we just ignore travel and we're like, hey, I can't travel right this very instant. Well, we have to be prepared for when that instance does happen,
right?
And that instance will come again. It's funny. I just posted a video last Sunday about how to get your U.S. passport. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm prepared to travel when it comes back. Are you? Do you even have a passport? That's the first step.
Yeah, and that's true. That's absolutely true, Lucie. So I could talk about cruising all day long. And, and so one of the things that we're doing as well is, we're on calls throughout the week with a variety of suppliers, making sure that we're getting the most up-to-date information that we can. So that we can make sure that, we provide ourselves as a value to the public that we serve too. And so, we're always open to, for questions, I'm always open for new clients like the rest of us are, but at the same time, it's all about helping people. And so we want to be out there to do that.
Absolutely. Well, you have shared some really great insight. Is there anything else that you want to add lastly?
Well, I would just say, we are a society that has a wanderlust for travel. We just do. We love to explore. We're explorers on a grand scale. Whether you're exploring locally or you're exploring globally. So don't be afraid to dream to travel. I mean, you can always make those plans in advance. There are protocols in place that help people, in the event that things are disrupted. That's what we're here to help people do. So don't be afraid to dream about it. if there's something you'd like to see that we don't post information about, and I'm always open to suggestions, so, please let us know. We'd be glad to share anything, any questions that you have, we'd be glad to help you.
That's awesome. And, I actually, traveling is something that is very valuable, I think, for anybody. I mean, it's crazy to think that I've met people that have literally never left their state or never left their town sometimes. And it's like, there's so much out there, whether you're traveling the US to the islands, to Europe, to Asia, whatever it might be, there is always more to learn out there. And I think that it's just so valuable. So I'm actually going to, I haven't done this on any of my calls, but I want to end this call with a question to you.
Sure.
So if you could select your number one dream trip, what would it be?
Oh, wow. My number one, my dream trip.
Yeah,
that I haven't taken yet. I am.
Or it doesn't even matter. It can be like, what's your number one dream trip? Like nothing holding you back.
Oh my gosh. I really want to do a full out Christmas markets trip in Germany. We're talking the Rhone and the Rhine, river cruising, going up and down the rivers during Christmas time. And, so that really is the dream trip for me. I'm absolutely.
So you said a German river cruise?
Yes.
For Christmas? What? I didn't even know it existed. And I love Germany and Christmas.
It's like a dream. I'm addicted to Hummel figurines and all that crazy stuff. So, just the idea that I could be, on the ground, walking cobblestone streets, drinking my beer on a nice cold day, and just being able to shop within the markets where people have made things that, to me, they're not just the handmade aspect, but the idea is that they have so much history there. And, so for me, that's a dream trip. But
absolutely.
Right now, outside my front door is awesome.
Is what?
Right outside my front door would be awesome.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll be very soon. It's funny. Today I had a call that I was on the phone with somewhere. I had to get my decal for my. It doesn't matter. So it was like, I was telling him my license plate number, and he. I have a Q in my license plate, and he's like, oh, I was spelling it out. I was like, P as in Paul, Q as in quarantine. And he started cracking up. He was like, you just made my day. Nobody has used Q for quarantine.
Well, it's only fair that I flip that question back to you, Lucie. What is your
I don't know. It's a hard one. I get new ones all the time because I'm on Instagram, and Instagram is showing me these.
Yeah, well, we took added Christmas markets for you, didn't we?
I do love Christmas. Okay, so I really, and it's at the top of my list right now. I need to go to the Northern Lights. I need to go to the Northern Lights, and I want to go to Iceland. I have been planning a trip to go to Iceland and see the Northern Lights and go to the Christmas markets in Iceland and see.
Nice.
Yeah. So we will see.
Wonderful. Someday, Lucie. That's part of that dream to travel thing. Never stop dreaming. You always have the opportunity, and the best way to take that opportunity is to just start planning.
Absolutely. And that's why I got this made by one of my favorite people, Debbie, with MSR Creations.
Oh, yes. It's wonderful.
She made me a little travel bucket list, and I got, my little branding.
Lovely.
So now I'm putting all of my dreams in this book to make it happen.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Tammy, for joining me today. It has been a great conversation, and thank you so much for updating us on what the travel industry is doing right now, and with cruises and everything. I know it'll probably change in 5 minutes, but that's okay. At least they know now.
Do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tomorrow, same time. Well, guys, I go live every Tuesday for Travel Tip Tuesday at 7 p.m. with a new guest from the travel industry. So make sure you tune in every week. This week we had Journaventure Travels, Journadventure Travels on, and I really appreciate you being on. So if you are just tuning in now, make sure you watch the replay and hear what Tammy had to share with us today, because it was great information.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucie.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.